Welcome to Steel Mace Education. Today we're going to talk about a daily mobility routine that's going to tackle and emphasize the areas of use that we would utilize mostly with our steel mace swing. So let's first talk about all of the things that are involved with swinging the steel mace, and let's understand that. So let's start with our centermost piece of equipment, or a piece of our body. That would be the spine. We must understand that the spine is a major part of the load that we're going to experience, whether it be lateral flexion and rotations. And so understanding how the spine needs to work and the degrees of freedom there is going to be important. Our biggest mover with the steel mace swing are our shoulder joints. And so our shoulder joints need maximal ranges of motion and control of those ranges of motion in order to effectively do their job while swinging the tool. As we move away from the shoulders, we think about the scapulas. The scapulas are important because not only do they provide a degree of stability, but they also provide a degree of movement, and controlling the scapulas are important to preserving shoulder health as well as you swing this tool. The elbows are designed to be a part of the swing. As you go into the backswing of the mace, you'll know the elbow is bent. But the elbow doesn't stay completely bent throughout the range of the movement, and there's some degree of not only flexion that's involved there, but also rotation of the elbow joints. The wrists are involved and the hands are involved. Now, the wrists are meant to be as stable as possible during the swing, but that doesn't mean that the wrist doesn't go into different motions as you move throughout the range of the swing. They're stable at some points and solidified, but as you move, the angle of the joint changes as you move around the head. Last but not least, we have the hips, but the hips aren't really involved. Depending on the type of swing you do, the hips may be involved to a greater or lesser degree. If you're trying to keep the hips from moving, then there's some stability that goes on there. But if you are using the mace more in the sport kind of format, and you're kind of lateral flexion and you're kind of tipping from one side to the other, the hips may have a little bit less of an impact there. But if you're trying to stabilize the hips as you're moving and you're controlling those, just know that the pelvic girdle still rotates just a little bit. And so some degree of rotation is happening at the hip joint. We won't address that so much because that's not the biggest area of concern. My biggest area of concern is from here on up. Okay? So we're going to start out by looking at what the shoulders need. They need ranges of flexion, extension, external rotation, internal rotation, as well as abduction and adduction. So we're going to start out with a kind of easy CARS routine. That's called a controlled articular rotation. We're going to take our palm, we're going to face it forward, and from here we're going to go into our biggest amount of external rotation as we can. And then we're going to bring that arm across the body, adducting, adducting, as far as you can. And then we're going to go into extension. You're going to imagine you have a big X on the inside of the bicep. We want to take that X and we want to turn that X and face it away from our ear as we begin to extend back behind us, and we're reaching for the wall behind us. As we continue to internally rotate and make our way around until the pinky is facing forward and the back of our palm ends up right next to our pocket. Now we're going to reverse that. We're going to extend back into extension as far as we can. When you feel that first roadblock, we're going to imagine that X again. We're going to take that X and we're going to take it from facing our midline, and we're going to take it and face it away from our midline. We're going to bring it all the way up. We're going to continue to externally rotate until we bring that X right up next to the ear again. We're going to pass through, continuing to externally rotate as we add duct, that's adduct across the body. And then we bring the arm back along the side. Okay, let's take a look at that from the side angle. Okay, these degrees of rotation are going to tell you a lot about what's going on with your shoulder joint. If you feel any pinch points or points that you can't actually go into, then just kind of go around those pain points and be cautious of those. But for now, we're going to look at our range of motion of the shoulder joint. So we're trying to keep our torso as straight as possible. We're in that external rotation, palm facing forward, bringing the arm across the body into adduction, all the way up next to our ear until we hit that roadblock, or imagine the big X is still facing our ear. We're going to take that X and turn it away from the ear. Our palm is now facing away. We're extending back and we're continuing to reach for the wall behind us as we continue to rotate into internal rotation, and bring that pinky next to the pocket once again. Extend back, take that X, turn it out to the crowd at the side, continue up next to the ear, across the body, adduction, and back down next to the side. Okay, so that's our shoulder joint. Scapula, very simple. We're going to take the palm next to the pocket. We're going to hike that shoulder up. Now, our hand can slide up and down the track on the seam of our pants, but we don't want the palm to end up in front of the thigh or behind the hamstring. So we're going to keep it here right next to us. We're going to bring it up. We're going to bring the scapula forward. So from here, what we're trying not to do is bend at the elbow. Okay, so arm is straight, forward. We bring it down. We bring it back. And we bring it back up. Now let's drop that scapula down into our back pocket. Bring it forward. Bring it up. And bring it back. And down. And let's smooth that out. So we want to smooth that circle out. Remember, we're trying to go into pain-free ranges. Let's go back the other direction. So if you feel any pains or things like that, those are areas that you might want to have addressed before you start picking up a tool and swinging it. And address that with a physical therapist or your medical professional. All right. Next up, we've got our elbows. We'll do elbows at the same time, while the palms facing forward, all the way down into extension. And we'll bring those palms all the way up as high as we can, squeezing those biceps at the top. We're going to imagine our middle finger is on a rotisserie. We're going to take that and rotate so that our palms are facing away from us. Squeeze out the last bit that you can out of that, and then we'll press down and away from the body. We'll rotate over again, palms facing up. Squeeze those biceps, rotisserie, and press down. Now we're going to keep the palms facing down, and we're going to bring them up, rotisserie to the palms facing us, extend down, rotate at the bottom, bring them up, rotisserie, and extend down. Okay? Next up, we've got the wrists. We'll do both of those at the same time. Be aware of what's going on with your wrists. So we're going to have the pinkies facing inward. We're going to imagine your favorite glass of whatever is on your forearm. We don't want that glass to spill, so we're going to keep our forearm or our elbow from pronating. Okay, so from here, our favorite drink is there on both arms. We're going to bring the pinkies in towards each other, towards the midline. We're going to show the palms to anyone in front of us. We're going to take the pinkies away from each other, and then bring the palms to face us, face our own face. And we're going to go back the other direction. So we're going to take the pinkies away from each other, palms away from us, bring the pinkies in together, and then bring the palms up to face us once again. All right? Cool. So we've got that down. Our last but not least is our spine. So we're going to work first our cervical spine, which is not really that heavily involved in the swing, but just know that your spinal column is all connected. So you can't just say that your spine is not always working together. It should always be working together. So regardless of what you are doing, your entire spine is involved with the activity. So we're going to work the cervical spine, and then we're going to separate and work this part that's between our torso. So first, we're going to bring our hands to the side. Let's bring our chin down to our chest. Once we get as far down as we can, now your chin should be able to touch your chest, unless you have a super long neck that just doesn't do that. And then we're going to take the chin and draw a semicircle over to the collarbone. We're going to take our ear, drop it down behind us. Take the chin, draw a semicircle across the ceiling. Over to the other shoulder. Semicircle. And we'll just pass through to the other collarbone. Tip the ear back again. Semicircle across the ceiling to the other shoulder, down to the center of our chest. And we'll go back the other way one time. Semicircle as far as you can to the other shoulder. Dip the ear back. Circle across the ceiling to the opposite shoulder. And bring it down to the chest. Okay? Now we're going to do the same thing with our torso. So we'll bring the palms across the chest. We're going to bring the chin to the chest. And then we're going to flex our spine as much as we can. Okay, once you feel like you can't flex anymore, before going into hip flexion, so you hit that roadblock, we're going to rotate. Once you hit that end point of rotating, imagine that your shoulder is a little spigot that you're trying to spill water out of the shoulder. You're just going to tip to the side and tilt and allow that water to spill out. And then we're going to tilt back, expanding and elongating the spine as we go through extension, all the way over to the other side. Bring the elbows down into the rib cage, tilt up, and rotate in. Now you can pass through. We're going to go back the other direction. So we're going to go into maximum amount of flexion as we can before hip flexion would take over. Rotate, tilt, go into extension, pull the elbow down into the rib cage, tip, and rotate back in. Okay, so that's your basic mobility from the torso up that I want you to work on, and I want you to begin to start integrating into your daily activities. I want you to start learning about your body, start understanding the things going on with your body. Before you just take this tool and put it in your hands and tell somebody to swing it, you should know what's going on with your body. As I said, at any point as you're going through these motions that you feel any sharp pains, pinches, things like that, those are red flags, and you should alert somebody, your medical professional or physical therapist, and find out more about what's going on there. And remember, assessment is the very first step that should be done before swinging this tool. This is just a general daily assessment to understand what's going on with your body. Before a more in-depth assessment, you'll need to have a professional who understands how the body works, give you more insight into all the moving parts involved in your swing. If you want to be a better swinger, if you want to swing for a long time, then having an assessment and understanding what your joints are doing and understanding the feedback that's coming from this tool will greatly influence your longevity and your future. So, thank you for watching, and please make sure, if you haven't subscribed to the email list, that you go ahead and subscribe to the email list and make sure that you get all this good stuff that's going to be coming your way. This is just the first part of a series of videos, and we'll be sending you more stuff coming up soon.